This analysis is independently researched and written by the channel owner. Digital tools are used only to assist with narration and visuals.
The arrival of the F-39 Gripen E at Anápolis Air Base in Brazil marked more than just the delivery of a fighter jet. It signified the operational commencement of one of the most complex industrial defense partnerships in modern history. For observers in Stockholm and Linköping, this collaboration represents a fundamental shift in how the Swedish defense industry engages with the global market. The narrative is no longer solely about the export of hardware, but rather the export of an industrial ecosystem. The relationship between Sweden and Brazil has evolved into a strategic symbiosis, characterized by deep technology transfer, shared intellectual property, and a recently solidified reciprocity that sees Swedish defense relying on Brazilian aerospace engineering. At the core of this partnership lies the contract for 36 Gripen aircraft, comprising 28 single-seat E models and 8 dual-seat F models. While the sale itself generates significant revenue, valued at approximately 39 billion Swedish kroner at the time of signing, the underlying industrial logic is what distinguishes this agreement from standard off-the-shelf procurement. Sweden has granted Brazil access to the Gripen source code and design blueprints, a level of transparency rarely seen in the global arms trade. This decision, while carrying inherent risks regarding intellectual property control, was a calculated strategic necessity. It secured the deal against fierce competition from French and American manufacturers and established Embraer, the Brazilian aerospace giant, as a stakeholder rather than merely a customer. The establishment of the Gripen Design and Development Network, located in Gavião Peixoto within the state of São Paulo, serves as the physical manifestation of this strategy. Here, Brazilian engineers work alongside their Saab counterparts to develop the two-seat Gripen F variant. This specific model is not merely a trainer, but a sophisticated platform designed for complex electronic warfare and command missions, tailored to the vast operational requirements of the South American theater. For the Swedish taxpayer and defense planner, this arrangement offers a tangible benefit. The development costs for the F model are largely absorbed by the Brazilian program, yet the resulting technology and capabilities remain accessible to Sweden should the Flygvapnet require such a platform in the future. Recent developments have introduced a critical element of reciprocity to this transatlantic equation. The decision by the Swedish government to select the Embraer C-390 Millennium as the replacement for its aging fleet of C-130 Hercules tactical transport aircraft fundamentally alters the diplomatic and economic balance. This move is widely interpreted by defense analysts as a strategic quid pro quo. By procuring the C-390, Sweden validates the Brazilian aerospace industry on the European stage, effectively endorsing Embraer technology to other NATO members. In return, the expectation is that Brazil will expand its initial order of Gripen fighters. But discussions suggest a potential increase of the fleet size by 25%, adding roughly 12 to 15 airframes to the original contract. This mutual procurement strategy creates a lock-in effect, where both nations become deeply invested in the sustainability of the other's defense industrial base. From a geopolitical standpoint, the alliance positions Brazil as the primary hub for Swedish defense technology in the Southern Hemisphere. This concept of a southern hub is essential for the long-term viability of the Gripen program. The fighter jet market is saturated, with the American F-16 and F-35 dominating NATO procurement. To survive, the Gripen needs markets outside the immediate U.S. sphere of influence. By empowering Brazil to assemble, maintain, and potentially manufacture components for the Gripen, Sweden effectively outsources its regional sales and support infrastructure. Should nations such as Colombia or Peru decide to modernize their air forces, the logistical support would likely stem from São Paulo rather than Linköping, reducing life cycle costs and making the Swedish option more competitive against logistical chains dependent on North America or Europe. However, a critical assessment of this partnership must address the inherent risks. Brazil remains a politically complex partner with an economy that has historically experienced significant volatility. The reliance on a supply chain that stretches across the Atlantic introduces vulnerabilities, particularly in an era where global shipping lanes and logistics are increasingly contested. Furthermore, the alignment of Brazilian foreign policy does not always mirror that of the European Union or NATO. There is a valid concern regarding how Swedish technology, specifically sensitive sensor data fusion and electronic warfare suites, is safeguarded within a non-NATO environment. While strict end-user agreements are in place, the geopolitical fluidity of Latin America presents a variable that Swedish strategists must constantly monitor. Another layer of complexity is the integration of diverse weapon systems. The Brazilian Air Force requires the integration of indigenous weaponry and potentially missiles from other suppliers into the Gripen platform. This necessitates an open architecture system, which is a selling point of the Gripen E, but also a technical challenge. Ensuring that the integration of non-Swedish munitions does not compromise the source code, integrity, or the performance of the AESA radar requires constant vigilance and high-level engineering cooperation. The success of this integration will determine whether the Gripen can truly be marketed as a platform-agnostic fighter, a capability that would significantly enhance its export potential to non-aligned nations. The cooperation also extends beyond the aerospace domain, hinting at a broader defensive alignment. The Brazilian Army has expressed interest in modernizing its mechanized infantry, and the CV-90 combat vehicle from BAE Systems Hägglunds stands as a strong contender. A potential deal for the CV-90 would likely follow the Gripen template, requiring local production and technology transfer. This reinforces the Swedish industrial model of focusing on high-tech system integration while allowing partner nations to handle heavy manufacturing, a strategy that preserves high-value jobs in Sweden while satisfying the nationalist industrial policies of the purchasing countries. Ultimately, the Sweden-Brazil defense relationship is a case study in how middle powers can collaborate to maintain strategic autonomy. In a world increasingly polarized by great power competition between the United States and China, nations like Sweden and Brazil seek to maintain sovereign defense capabilities without becoming wholly dependent on a single superpower. For Sweden, the partnership ensures that the Gripen program has the scale necessary to survive. For Brazil, it provides the technological leap required to act as a regional hegemon. The purchase of the C-390 by Sweden closes the circle, proving that this is a partnership of peers rather than a patron-client relationship. As the first Brazilian-made Gripens roll off the assembly line at Gavião Peixoto, they represent a vindication of the Swedish strategy of technology sharing. The risks of intellectual property transfer have been outweighed by the benefits of market access and burden sharing. The challenge moving forward will be to maintain this momentum amidst global economic uncertainty and to ensure that the industrial bridges built between Scandinavia and South America remain resilient. Into the synergy between Swedish innovation and Brazilian industrial potential has created a unique axis in the global defense market, one that offers a pragmatic alternative to the dominant suppliers of the 20th century.